The psychology of people who are always calm. Have you ever met one of them? They are the quiet eye in the hurricane of human affairs, the still point in the turning, chaotic world. While the rest of us are tossed about on the violent waves of our own emotions, our anxieties, our rages, our panics, they seem to inhabit a different reality altogether. They move through life with a strange and almost unnerving equanimity. In the face of a crisis that would send any normal person into a frantic tailspin, they are a preternatural island of calm. They do not get rattled. They do not get provoked. They do not get overwhelmed. They are the masters of a kind of psychological and spiritual peace that seems almost superhuman. You have likely looked at this person, the one who is always calm, with a sense of profound and often envious awe. You see their unshakable stillness as a kind of magical gift, a temperamental jackpot that you were simply not lucky enough to win. You see their calm as a sign of their innate strength, of their spiritual advancement, of a life that has been magically free from the struggles and the traumas that have left you so reactive and so raw. You believe that they are a different and better kind of human being, a creature from a more peaceful and evolved planet. But what if you are wrong? What if their calm is not a gift, but a hard-won and often brutal achievement? What if their peace is not an absence of feeling, but the result of a profound and lifelong war that they have waged and won within their own soul? What if they are not the ones who have been spared the storms of life, but are, in fact, the only ones who have truly learned how to navigate them? The brutal and uncomfortable truth is that the person who is always calm is not a serene and passionless saint. They are a warrior. They are a philosopher. They are an alchemist of the mind. Their calm is not a state they were born into. It is a fortress they have built, a skill they have mastered, a freedom they have earned. And in their quiet, unassuming, and deeply misunderstood presence lies a secret and powerful teaching for us all, a forgotten map that leads out of the noisy, reactive, and deeply enslaved prison of the ordinary mind. To understand the psychology of the person who is always calm, we must first understand that this is not a monolithic category. This is a vast and complex landscape of the human soul, and it is populated by many different kinds of inhabitants. And for many, the roots of their unshakable calm lie not in a profound strength, but in a deep and primal wound. This is the person whose calm is not a peace, but a paralysis. It is the calm of the frozen child. This is the child who grew up in an environment of such profound and overwhelming chaos, of such terrifying and unpredictable violence, that their nervous system, in a desperate and brilliant act of survival, simply shut down. They learned from their earliest moments that to have a feeling, any feeling, was a dangerous and potentially fatal liability. To be angry was to invite a greater rage. To be sad was to be met with a contemptuous dismissal. To be joyful was to be a target. The only safe way to exist was to not exist at all, to become a ghost in their own life, a small, still, and utterly and completely numb observer of the horror. Their calm is not a choice. It is a trauma response. It is a profound and deeply ingrained state of dissociation. They have, in a very real and tragic sense, left their own bodies. They have retreated into a small, safe, and heavily fortified watchtower in their own minds, and they are looking down at the world, and at their own life, from a great and unbridgeable distance. As an adult, this person's calm is a fortress. It is a masterpiece of psychological armor. They can move through the most chaotic and emotionally charged situations with an unnerving and almost robotic placidity, because on a deep and fundamental level, they are not really there. The events of the world are not touching them. They are touching the thick and impenetrable walls of their dissociative defense. This is not a state of peace. It is a state of living death. It is a life that is lived without color, without texture, without the beautiful and terrible music of the human heart. The person who is trapped in this frozen calm is a person who is profoundly and tragically alienated from their own aliveness. Their calm is not a sign of their strength. It is the scar tissue that has formed over their greatest and most secret wound. They are not a master of their emotions. They are a prisoner of the absence of them. But there is another kind of person who is always calm, a person whose stillness comes not from a wound, but from a profound and terrifying strength. This is the person who is not numb to their feelings, but who has, through a long and difficult process of self-mastery, become the absolute and sovereign ruler of them. This is the calm of the philosopher, of the warrior, of the sage. This is the calm of the person who has looked into the abyss of the human condition and has not just survived the vision, but has found in it a source of profound and unshakable peace. This is the calm of the Stoic. For the Stoic, the ultimate goal of a human life is to achieve a state of apatheia, of a calm, unshakable, and godlike tranquility. And the key to this state is the ruthless and unwavering application of what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control, the clear and absolute distinction between what is in our control and what is not. The only thing that is truly in our control is our own mind, our own judgments, our own choices. Everything else, our health, our wealth, our reputation, the actions of others, the events of the world, is entirely outside of our control. The person who is not calm, the person who is a slave to their own emotional reactivity, is a person who has not learned this lesson. Their inner peace is a fragile and precarious thing, utterly dependent on the world conforming to their desires. The challenge, the failure, the loss, these things are seen as a catastrophic and unjust violation. They are at war with reality, and it is a war they will always lose. The person who is always calm is the person who has chosen freedom. They have made a conscious and deliberate choice to refuse to hand over the keys to their own inner citadel to the fickle and often brutal whims of fortune. They understand that the challenge itself is not the source of their suffering. The challenge is a neutral, external event. The suffering comes from the judgment they make about the event, the story they tell themselves. And that story is the one thing that is entirely within their control. Their calm is not a denial of the difficulty of the situation. It is a profound and powerful statement of their own inner sovereignty. It is a quiet and defiant declaration that says, you, the external world, can do your worst. You can take my job, you can take my health, you can take my reputation, but you cannot touch my soul. You cannot control my response. Can I choose to respond not with fear, not with anger, not with despair, but with a calm, rational, and virtuous acceptance? This is a form of psychological warfare against the tyranny of fate. It is the ultimate and most unfair of all advantages. The person who can remain calm in the heart of a crisis has already won, because they have redefined victory. Victory is no longer the achievement of the external goal. Victory is the maintenance of their own internal tranquility. They have become, in the most literal sense, undefeatable. Their calm is the quiet and terrifying banner of a soul that has declared its own absolute and unconditional independence. We have now reached the most profound and most psychologically complete of all the archetypes of the calm person. This is the person whose calm is not a trauma response, and it is not a purely philosophical discipline. It is the natural and often effortless radiance of a soul that has become whole. This is the calm of the person who has undertaken the deep, alchemical work of their own individuation, the term the great psychologist Carl Jung used for the journey of becoming a complete and integrated self. For Jung, the psyche is not a unitary thing. It is a dynamic and often warring collection of opposites, the conscious and the unconscious, the persona and the shadow, the masculine and the feminine, the state of neurosis, the state of suffering, the state of emotional reactivity, is the state of being identified with one side of these opposites and being at war with the other. The person who is terrified of their anger, the person who is ashamed of their vulnerability, the person who is a slave to their own passions. This is a person who is a house divided, a person who is in a state of perpetual and exhausting inner conflict. The person who is always calm, in the Jungian sense, is the person who has had the immense courage to end this war. They have journeyed into the dark, chaotic, and often terrifying world of their own unconscious, and they have made peace with what they have found there. They have turned to face their shadow, their anger, their fear, their greed, their lust, and they have not tried to conquer it, but to understand it, to befriend it, to integrate it. They have embraced their own, full and often paradoxical humanity. Their calm is not the calm of suppression. It is the calm of integration. It is the deep, quiet, and unshakable stillness of a system that is no longer at war with itself. The immense psychic energy that was once consumed with the futile project of repression is now free. It is available to them as a source of quiet, steady, and centered power. When they feel a wave of anger, they are not possessed by it. They can feel it. They can honor its message, but they are not it. They are the vast, calm, and conscious container that holds the anger. When they feel a wave of fear, they do not run from it. They can meet it. They can listen to its wisdom, but they are not it. They are the sky, and the emotion is a passing cloud. This is the calm of the person who has found their own true center. And for Jung, this center is not the ego, the small, anxious, and controlling I that we mistake for ourselves. The true center is the self, the totality of our being, the union of the conscious and the unconscious. The person who is centered in the self is a person who is connected to a source of wisdom, of peace, and of power that is far greater than their own small personal story. They are no longer a small, fragile boat, tossed about on the waves of life. They are the ocean itself. And the ocean, in its deep and silent depths, is always and forever calm. What then can we learn from these quiet and confounding figures, these people who are always calm? They are not just psychological curiosities. They are a mirror. They are a profound and uncomfortable reflection of our own deep and desperate addiction to the drama, the chaos, and the ultimately disempowering roller coaster of our own emotional reactivity. The path of the calm person, whether it is the path of the sage or the alchemist, is the path of the inner sovereign. It is the path of the person who has, either through discipline or through a deep, integrative grace, taken their place on the throne of their own inner kingdom. The journey for the person who is trapped in the frozen, wounded calm of their past is the journey of transforming that calm from a trauma response into a conscious choice. It is the work of healing the inner child who is forced to shut down, of learning that it is safe to feel, and of finally arriving at a place where their calm is not a prison, but a choice, one of a vast and beautiful array of authentic emotional responses to the world. And the journey for the rest of us, for the ones who are slaves to our own reactivity, for the ones whose inner peace is a fragile and fleeting thing, is to have the immense courage to ask ourselves what we are so afraid of. What powerful and life-giving emotions are we refusing to meet, to befriend, to integrate? What profound and unshakable peace are we sacrificing on the altar of our own, unexamined and deeply addictive emotional dramas? The person who is always calm has given us a great and terrible gift. They have shown us the possibility of a different kind of freedom, a freedom that is not found in the futile attempt to create a life without challenges, but in the courageous and alchemical art of forging a soul that is stronger than any challenge. They have shown us that the ultimate form of power is not the ability to control the world, but the ability to control ourselves. And they have shown us that the ultimate form of peace is not to be found in a life without storms, but in the profound and unshakable discovery of the quiet, silent, and utterly and completely calm I that lies at the very heart of the storm itself.